Metadata showing the numbers AT&T customers interacted with, along with the frequency of texts and the duration of calls, were accessed by cybercriminals earlier this year. In an email sent to AT&T customers yesterday, the company clarified there's no current indication of any public release or illegal use of your data, and that though the data included the phone numbers of your call and text interactions from May 1st to October 31st, 2022, it did not include the content of calls or text messages nor personal information. Colin is a security software developer and the host of the podcast The Daily Decrypt, which delivers short-form cybersecurity news. Colin says the AT&T breach is part of a larger problem.
In the last couple of decades, there's been a really big push towards the cloud. And the reason being is it's cheaper, it's more flexible, and it's, quote, more secure.
But when companies and individuals store data in a third-party cloud storage platform, they're no longer the only party responsible for the security of that data. AT&T, along with fellow data breach targets Advance Auto Parts and Ticketmaster, stored data in the cloud service provider Snowflake, which did not require users to set up two-factor authentication.
And because of that, companies weren't really thinking about it, and they were just creating these accounts and logging in as mandated by the cloud service provider, which was just usernames and passwords.
Cybercriminals gained access to Snowflake accounts not through hacking, but by using stolen login credentials purchased from the dark web.
You click a phishing link in an email. That downloads what's called an info stealer malware. That lives on your computer, waits for you to log in to anything, and grabs your username and password.
And without using two-factor authentication, that's all a bad actor needs to log in.
If they had two-factor authentication enabled on their Snowflake account, they could have typed in the username, typed in the password, and the actual user would have received a prompt on their phone to allow this login that they didn't initiate, which would have stopped the whole thing in its tracks.
But for over 160 companies storing data on Snowflake, this precaution wasn't enabled. Cybercriminals used this method to obtain customer records from AT&T, Taylor Swift tickets from Ticketmaster, and Social Security numbers stored by Advance Auto Parts. Snowflake now requires all new customers to use two-factor authentication. Colin says there are some basic precautions people can take to protect their data, like using messaging services with end-to-end encryption. He also says tech users can be more mindful of how much information they give companies, and whether that information is pertinent to the services they provide. But ultimately, he says regulation is the best defense to protect user data at large scales.
We need, acts of Congress. The SEC needs to get involved and really get down and make sure these companies, first of all, aren't storing our Social Security numbers, and second of all, that the place that they store them is secure with multiple forms of authentication, preferably physical encryption keys, all of that stuff. This is huge.
For WUKY News, I'm Clay Wallace.